All right, what is up? Welcome in GC Live special Monday morning episode as we've been doing, I guess, the last couple of years. Go ahead and try to get our takes out there on Monday morning as opposed to waiting to the afternoon. I'm Wes Mitchell. He is Chris Clark. This show brought to you, as always, by our guy Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. ClintHammond.com, 803-422-6797, NMLS number 71597. As we always tell you, if you're in the market for a home, or maybe you've just thought about home ownership at some point in your life and you don't even know what that looks like, you have questions. How much money do I need to put down for a down payment? What would a monthly payment look like? How much home can I afford? Clint can answer all these questions and more for you. Give him a call. You can set up a sit down. Makes it a lot easier, I feel like. ClintHammond.com, 803-422-6797. As always, we appreciate our guy Clint for being our presenting sponsor here on GC Live.
And we also appreciate our friends over at Ferry Chevrolet since 1926. They have been serving the community. It's a local car dealership. Started in St. Matthews, now located in Orangeburg, just off of I-26. That's right between Columbia and Charleston. So local and very easy to get to from any of those places. Very convenient. Folks over at Ferry Chevrolet are local, trustworthy. They're always going to be transparent with you. So if you're a South Carolina fan out there who's looking or interested in a new or used vehicle, make sure you give them an opportunity to earn your business. You can head on over to ferrychevrolet.com, or of course you can give them a call, 803-937-4531, or just go stop by their place over in Orangeburg, just off of I-26. They're still led by a fourth-generation dealer in Joseph Ferry. It's a family-owned business, and again, been around since 1926. So check them out. Support those that support us. Go check out ferrychevrolet.com.
All right, of course, we're going to talk about South Carolina Vanderbilt, 31-7 win by the Commodores, a game that got away from South Carolina in the second half. And man, lots to get to here, of course. Very strange game again at Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday night. You have Lenore Sellers' injury. Shane Beamer, just for anybody who hasn't seen it, saying he was optimistic on Sunday evening that Sellers would be back after taking what did not appear at the time, Chris, to be like one of those vicious injuries. But anytime you involve helmet to helmet, which it was ultimately called a targeting, after it happened, Sellers just looked kind of out of it. You could tell they were very cautious in terms of making sure he was in a situation where, could he go back in the game or not? Ultimately, they determined he should not go back in after that helmet-to-helmet hit. And, I think this is a game, frankly, where in some ways, especially on offense, I kind of separate the two in my head in terms of, all right, what was going on offense when Sellers was in the game? What was going on offense when Sellers was out of the game? Whenever you have a superstar quarterback, whenever you put, all of your resources into, hey, this is our guy, this is our quarterback, and then you lose that guy, you are going to there's going to be a drop-off in terms of production. That was what we saw on Saturday. Defense, probably not what it needed to be. It felt like they, as the game went along, and I'll say this, man, as I'm kind of frankly struggling to frame up this game, I'll say this. It felt like, to me, like Carolina just did not necessarily respond to the loss of Sellers the way they would want to. And, and I don't think that's a lack of effort. Like, I still saw guys running around. Like, they're still hustling. Like, let's be clear. They're trying to make plays. But to me, it just did not feel like – it just felt completely different on both sides of the ball after 16 exited the game. And, if I frame up this thing to one thing that I think it was something we circled going in that was going to be a massive factor. Third and fourth downs. If you look at the money downs in this game, Vanderbilt owned the money downs. That is the way. SEC football at this point in many ways is kind of like the NFL on a week-to-week basis. Like, most everybody else can beat most everybody else. And the teams that win the third downs, win the fourth downs, the team that win red zone, the teams that have turnovers, don't have turnovers, those are going to be the things that basically affect whether you win the game or not. So when Vandy converts most of their third downs and you do not, when Vandy moves the ball but scores touchdowns, you basically kind of stall out and have to go for it on fourth down, do not get it. Vandy hits their long field goal, you miss your long field goal. Those are all the things that, in my opinion, create a game where the total yardage is basically the same, but the scoreboard is blowout.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it well last week. The line between, good football and bad football is just so thin. And, Wes, you and I are not getting on here arguing, hey, South Carolina was really close. They lost by 24 points, right? But you can win. We saw this over the college football universe over the weekend. You can lose on one play. This is the last play of the game. You can lose on several plays throughout the course of a game that end up snowballing on you. And I think that's exactly what happened to South Carolina on Saturday. Is things just really snowballed on them. And I'm like you. I'm having a hard time there's so many thoughts coming out of this game, because I think it's worth analyzing, okay, what happened in this game? What happened big picture, etc. I think one of the thoughts that I had coming out of the game, Wes, is, okay, you got 3 drives basically with Lenora Sellers. What, 3 drives and 2 plays of another drive, I think is correct?
I think it's 1 play.
1 play.
I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 1 to 2, whatever.
I'll effort that to make sure we're.
You didn't even get 4. You didn't even get 4 full drives. I think the first 2 is exactly what South Carolina fans wanted. You converted some third downs. You got Sellers involved in the run game. You had a couple of chunk passing plays. You had some creativity in the run game. You scored on your first drive. You're driving and you're on the 14-yard line on drive 2. That's exactly what you want. Sellers throws a pick. Drive 3. Reversion to more of what we've seen this season that's been bad. You give up a sack. You roll a snap back. And I think that's the sack, West, that was on the running back. Not sure who was in at the time. Beamer referenced that. You miss a blitz protection. Somebody runs free, sack. You roll a snap back. Now it's 3rd and 33, and you have a run play that almost pops out of there, but you don't want to be in 3rd and 33. Next drive, Sellers is out. So we don't know, Wes, if Sellers is in the game after drive 4, if he can play the rest of the game, if he doesn't get knocked out. Is it feasible that South Carolina would have been better offensively, given what we saw in the first 2 drives, especially if they could avoid all, those mistakes, him throwing a pick, the two really bad plays that we saw on drive 3. Yeah. I think what people are struggling with is, well, Chris, maybe you can argue that they would have been better if Sellers stayed in the game. But what I saw in game 1, in game 2, is that even when 16 was on the field, the offense wasn't near good enough. And that's true, right? My point is, at some point, this offense has to turn around. Was the offense starting to turn somewhat of a corner early in this game before Sellers got knocked out? Maybe. But then you've got the evidence of drive 3 was really, really bad. We saw a couple major mistakes on that drive. On drive 2, we saw a major mistake with the turnover, the pick that Lenora Sellers threw. So here's what I know. I think one of the big goals, and I fully realize I'm rambling, so cut me off anytime. I think coming into this season, there was a greater expectation for this offense. And it wasn't just looking at what was returning on paper. It was even based on some things that we heard in the preseason. Wes, you and I have been covering this team a long time. you can't just ignore some of the things that we were hearing coming out of the preseason because it was different. We know that you had Sellers back, that on paper there was more depth on the offensive line, that on paper the receiver group was better. We know that they're playing 4 tight ends right now. You look at what Rasul Faison did against Vandy. He's showing some good things and really starting to come along. And yet they're stuck in a cycle where they're not producing consistently. They're not producing enough points. They're not converting enough third downs. There's way too many negative plays, right? The offensive line is still, while some aspects of what's been talked about there are overblown, a lot of it is very, very valid. And the production through 3 games just has not been good enough there. And I think offensively, that was the area where you expected a lot more from this team in the beginning, and you're just not getting it right now. So I think that's what is on people's minds the most, as we exit this game.
Yeah, well, and I think the big picture thing too is just losing to Vanderbilt. And what I mean by that is it was a 16-year win streak. And I feel like we have conditioned ourselves. If you lose to Vanderbilt, if you lose to Vanderbilt at home, if you lose 31-7, I've seen it online for the last 48 hours or so. It is like this cannot be processed.
Right.
I think among again, we try to have some nuance on this show. It has to be factored in that this is a good Vanderbilt football team. And you can argue with me if you want, well, they're not great. They're just good. They've won. I don't care about in this case the nuance of, well, is Vandy a 9-win team or are they a 7-win team or are they an 8-win? I don't care about that part. I'm just specifically saying if you don't play well against this Vandy team, they will humble you. And Vanderbilt got the exact game they wanted in this game. Now, is some of that because of them and the way they played? They have a specific plan of how they want to beat you, and then they go try to do it. They got right down to the fact that Sellers, as you just said, you got 3 drives with him, and then you were about to have a 4th that was going to be a late half, like 2-minute type situation. So that's what they do. They convert third downs, they stay on the field, and they limit your possessions. You have 4 first half possessions. That is really 3 first half possessions and a 2-minute drill. That's what they want to be. That Vandy was not dominant on offense in the first half, but they're controlling the clock. They're limiting the game. And here's what I feel like Vandy does. They amplify your mistakes. They amplified, like if Sellers throws the way the offense was playing for those 3 drives, here's the thing, man. Even the drive, the third one where they're shooting themselves in the foot, they have a 17-yard completion on that drive for a first down. Mm-hmm. Like actually overcame shooting themselves in the foot and then decided to do it again after overcoming it, which was, I think, probably the most frustrating. That was not one of those just 3-and-out drives. There were plays to be made against Vanderbilt's defense when Sellers was in the game. Now, whether South Carolina would have executed well enough to convert on all those opportunities, we will never know. There were plays to be made, but even then, Vanderbilt's going, hey, you have to execute at a very high, a very efficient level. The turnover ended up being massive on the second drive of the game because Vandy is a team, they're going to squeeze you if they have a lead. If you have a lead, you can actually put them on their heels maybe a little bit, but they're a team where you feel like you have no time left, even when, like I'm sitting there when Vanderbilt scored on the first drive of the second half, I'm going, this game is going to be late in a hurry,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you were down 2 scores. So I think there has to be some level of credit to them just playing their game, executing it well, getting the exact game flow they wanted, and then, you know, sticking with it. And, you know, they have this combination right now of veteran guys that have just been through the SEC battles. They have a unicorn in Diego Pavia. They have an excellent offensive staff. You know, I think Tim Beck and that crew do a great job of just keeping you. You know, they're doing all this horizontal stuff, all this motion shifts, misdirection, play action, and Pavia executes it well. They're fully willing to run him into a brick wall because he's fully willing to run into a brick wall and then get up and do it again. And they just make life difficult on you. The game last year, which South Carolina kind of dominated, was closer than 28-7, in my opinion. Vanderbilt is driving early in that game for a statement score, much like South Carolina, and there's a strip sack that gets the defense off the field. This game, Vanderbilt's defense is the one that makes the big play. When you're really early on, both sides are feeling each other out, and they drop their nose tackle back, basically, and get the big interception. Change the game completely. And, you know, that doesn't mean there weren't many more opportunities throughout the game to change it back into your favor. But to me, that was just such a big early play in terms of how this game was going to flow, how it was going to play out. If you score at that point, and I know ifs and buts, but if you score and don't have that turnover there, because there's an open man, frankly, Beamer made it sound like there are multiple open guys on that play. You're 14-7. Williams-Brice Stadium is on fire, and I think it's just completely different. Maybe Sellers doesn't get hit and get knocked out of the game at that point because the play calling is different. Like it's just one or two plays in these games. And again, I go back to how you played on third downs. Beamer talked about this a lot. Shula talked about this. Stay on the field. Can you stay on the field? Vanderbilt stays on the field. South Carolina still to this point has not converted their third downs well enough.
Yeah, and I want to go back to, something you said, which is, having some nuance about the thing. Coming into this game, everybody said, got to have a better offensive performance, right? And it could be that South Carolina was on their way to doing that. You had the bad Sellers pick. You had bad drive 3. After that, we do not know what it would have looked like the rest of this game. Again, you may take a pessimistic view, which you would actually be well within your right to do, again, based on what we've seen the first 2 games, and even some of the things in this game, even when Sellers was in. You may say they weren't going to turn it around, Chris, and that's fine. But you also can't totally rule out the possibility that it would have been better with him in the game. This offense, for better or worse, is overly reliant on Sellers making plays. Now, he is the starting quarterback for a reason. He is extremely talented. We've seen that. He can make plays. He can make you right. One of the goals, I think, this season, Wes, was not to be so overly reliant on those huge plays, both with the offense generally and with Sellers himself. Again, not saying don't run the football. We're not involving you in the run game. Don't take off, but trying to make it so, hey, let's try to make a play here. Everybody, all 11 on the offense, instead of relying on Lenoris to, get out of a sack and go make something happen. You got to be better around him. And so far, man, those things have not happened. Again, could they have happened against Vandy? We will never know, right? But that's what has to happen, certainly, going forward. That's what you've got to do. So I think some of the themes showed up again that we've seen through the first 3 games. Penalties, near misses, near hits, however you want to categorize it. Big negative plays, too many negative plays, not being able to convert on third down. I mean, Wes, you pointed it out earlier. Vandy was, I think, 6 for 12 on third down. I think first half they were 5 for 7. Carolina missed out some fourth down opportunities. They were not as good on third down. I thought it was telling that, Shane Beamer said right after the game, I think it was right after the game, he said this, that in one of those short yardage situations, in hindsight, maybe they should have thrown it because they were having struggles in short yardage. To me, symptom of a bigger problem, right? If you're South Carolina, and I know Vandy's solid, they're experienced, all that. They're very aggressive up front. If you feel like in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, when you have mobile quarterbacks, and I'm counting Doty in this equation, if Sellers isn't in the game, when you have mobile quarterbacks, when you have Rasul Faison, you've got to be able to feel like you can go run the football in short yardage. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, again, themes that have consistently continued to show up. You've got to be fair and leave space that this team could have been better with Sellers in game 3, right? Because if this offense gets better, at some point, that switch is going to flip and they're going to look better, like the team did last year. They struggled, then they got better. At some point, it happens. Last year, it was really the Oklahoma game, mainly defense. Things took off from there. This year, we don't know if it'll happen. If it does, it'll be boom, a specific moment in a specific game, and things kind of take off from there. If you're pessimistic about that, I totally get it. But I still think, Wes, the most frustrating part, I think for fans, even for us covering it, is knowing and strongly believing that there is more to be had from this offense and that it could be better, but right now it's not. And so now you're sitting here just wondering, what is it specifically?
Yeah. And here's the thing, dude. The more we've been in this business, man, the less you will almost never hear me say play calling, because I just feel like play calling is such a cop-out answer that always is the reason why an offense is not performing in people's eyes. If a play doesn't work, play calling. Why are they not playing well? Play calling. I'm like, okay, what was the play call and what defense were they in? Like, if you want to tell me why you thought that was a bad play call, tell me what coverage the defense was in. And tell me why it was a bad play call. And most people, I mean, if you ask me, I'm trying to watch a game from an analytics standpoint. If you ask me on the fly, hey, what coverage were they in and what was South Carolina trying to accomplish on that play by watching it once, I'm going to have no idea. Like, unless you're an actual coach, and even for them watching a play once, you're not going to see everything. So play calling is a catch-all for bad offense, I think. And now there are times that the play you're talking about, the 4th and short, I mean, Vandy sent the entire house on that play. Like,
all
to
of
me,
them.
And so Beamer, I think part of the reason he also said that was, hey, Vandy has been good on short yardage situations. If in my scout, I know, hey, we're going to probably get overwhelmed on this play. Maybe we're not going old school power on this play. We're trying to move offensive linemen. When offensive linemen are moving or pulling, that also opens up opportunities for linebackers to shoot through gaps and create negative plays, especially if they had no fear of you for throwing the ball there. That's a play. That's a play, Chris, where, and again, you don't hear me. I haven't said the word play calling all season on this show or even written it. I hated that play call. Like, that, to me, you're trying to get back into the game. If I know you have a backup quarterback, I know that you're trying to kind of manage things at that point, but you're down in the game and it's getting late quick. If you had gone play action and given Luke a throw down the field on that, if he gets the ball off, you're probably scoring a touchdown, is how aggressive they were on that play. Now, I know if you threw the ball down the field on that and it was incomplete or you got him hit, you would hear everybody telling you how terrible it was. But as we saw, that would have been a better play call than what happened, because the risk reward on the play that they called was the risk was the result we saw. The reward is 1 yard and a first down.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, every now and then you see a play where a defense commits so many resources to one line, basically, and they don't have that second and third line that is typically a part of a defense in terms of linebackers and safeties. A play breaks off for a long score. That doesn't happen that often. I would have loved, and again, we're doing hindsight. That's cool. But is it completely hindsight? If Beamer told us, hey, we know how good, we knew coming in how good they are on third and short or fourth and short. So it's not completely hindsight. Your scout has told you that.
Yep.
Maybe that's where you say, hey, we need to take a chance to go win this game.
No, I think it's a great point. And I think you articulated that well. I think also, I was probably generalizing and trying to apply it to a specific situation. I think the point is South Carolina has to be able to run the ball better in short yardage situations. There's going to be times in the course of a season where we've already seen some of them, right? And there will be more of them where it's third down and you've got to run the football and you got to go make it happen. And, there's going to be those times, especially when you've got, again, a mobile quarterback who's your starter, a mobile quarterback who's your backup. You got to be able to go out and do those things. You can't, not that a play action pass, Wes, is a gimmick, right? That's not but you've got to be able to line up and beat somebody. And, I think far too often South Carolina's offense has either been beaten one-on-one or in a team setting, or honestly, man, a lot of times they're beating themselves, allowing run-throughs. Maybe sometimes the play call isn't great. Sometimes the breakdown has absolutely nothing to do with the play call. They've had some really good play calls on at times this year where it hasn't been executed. And so if you're in the chat saying, well, that's on the coaches to get them to execute better. Absolutely. Right. But I agree with you that play calling is that, if you look at a box score and you say all the plays must have been bad, you do have to go beyond that. When an offense is struggling like this, it is not just one thing. We always want to boil it down to one thing. It's the O-line. It's play calling. It's this. No, it's all. There are multiple problems here. And frankly, that makes the challenge in front of South Carolina a little more difficult because they have a lot of different things that they've got to solve for, and they've got to start doing it on Saturday in Como.
Yeah, which we'll get to that later. That's always a tough game for South Carolina. So, I don't know. Good luck. But here's the thing for me, and people are talking about play calling and Sellers usage. I thought for the first time this year, one of the first times this year, the Sellers usage was what I and many people wanted to see in those first couple of drives, right? Like part of the problem, I almost feel like, is this an NFL approach? I don't know. Like, I feel like especially the first game. And then really, I think with SC State, it was different. There were different problems, but to an extent, they're going, we're not going to let Sellers take a bunch of hits. Like that has to be what it is. You're almost managing the game, and at times like, hey, let's score enough to win the game. Whereas I feel like you see a lot of college offenses, like Kiffin's offense, for example. They're going, let's score as many points as possible. I feel like we saw this with Dow at times as well. Maybe I'm completely wrong, man. Like, I feel like it's more of like, hey, we're going to score as many points as we need today. It's not like we're just going to score as many points as we can and go win the game. And you may be saying, well, shouldn't you always be trying to score as many points as you can? Well, in this context, I'm talking about how aggressive are you? How many times do you put the ball at risk? How many times do you get your quarterback hit? Like, I don't care what anyone says. They definitely were trying to limit the hits on Lenore Sellers the first 2 games. They also were limiting, like you can say, well, hey, where was Sellers' production the first couple of games? Well, we're limiting his involvement, man. It wasn't, hey, Sellers run, Sellers throw. It was handoff, throw. And I made this point before. I don't think he gets into a rhythm. I don't think he settles in. Like, I feel like his accuracy within the course of a game goes up when you just let him be heavily involved. And I mean, the first play call of the game, you want to talk about a play call I love? I loved, hey, we're going to get under center, but we're going to go play action. And we've probably repped this play in practice quite a few times. Let's get him. And it wasn't one of those easy throws like you hear people talk about on the broadcast. Like, you got him an easy throw to the perimeter and it's a screen. But in terms of a throw, Sellers absolutely can make. Drop him back. You're throwing on first down, so you have a little bit more pass protection. You would feel like I love the way they came out. Then they got him involved in the running game. Had an 11-yard run from Rasul Faison on play 2, then an 8-yard run from Lenore Sellers on play 3. He changes the game when you let him just be used, like have heavy usage, whether that's passing game or running game. If you don't, then teams just don't have to account for everything as much. My hot take on this game, Chris, is that not that it was perfect, but the quote unquote circle the offensive line, they're the reason you lost. I do not think this game was on the South Carolina offensive line. I just don't. Like, did they have a couple of busts in pass protection? Was one of them absolutely massive in terms of getting your quarterback hit? Yes, it was. But when I look and I see Rasul Faison averaged 4.9 yards a carry, Attaway only had 1 carry, but it was for 6 yards. When everybody was out there and the game was in the balance, you were actually having those run plays where you're getting 5 yards here, you're getting 6 yards here, an 11-yard run from Faison. The offensive line was playing with confidence. You have guys 10 yards down the field. Actually, the difference to me was your O-line was getting to the second level.
Yes.
The first 2 games, it felt like they were never getting to the linebackers. You had double team blocks getting to the linebackers and then shoving guys 10 yards down the field on those first 2 drives. So, again, in no way am I saying it was like perfect, but I just, for as much hate as the O-line has gotten this year, and at times it has not been good, to me, the whole O-line run game, that's why he lost the game. That, like, if you look at the overall number, you say, 86 yards, 29 carries, 3 yards a carry. Yeah, not great, but you have the minus 11 team rush on there on, is that the bad snap that counts as a team rush for minus 11?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. I think it was 11 yards.
You have the sack totals, which, I get it. That's partially on the O-line too. But just in terms of running game, to me, especially early, this did not look like the running game we've seen the first 2 weeks where you just feel like they're crashing into a wall. Like there was enough from those parts of the game to where they could keep you on schedule. And, unfortunately, we'll never know how that would have played out as the game progressed because, with the Sellers in there, because we didn't get to see that. Defense, we haven't not talked about at all, Chris. So I do want to hit on that. But first, do you want to tell everybody about another of our great sponsors?
Yeah, let's tell everybody about Brandon Cohen and Palmetto Golf and Belts. That's palmettogolfing.com. Of course, if you're a golfer, go check out his online shop, custom golf gloves, custom golf towels, golf tees, and custom needlepoint belts available in a variety of designs and colors. He's got the garnet, USC-looking garnet. He's got the Palmetto State Blue, the cross design, the Palmetto Tree and Moon design. Needlepoint belts, very well made, extremely well made, and also more affordable than a lot of the options that you're going to find online or in stores. So even if you're not a golfer, you can check out the needlepoint belts or just get a great gift for that golfer in your life. Again, custom golf towels, tees, belts, and more at palmettogolfing.com. Our members are loving it. Brandon Combs, South Carolina guy, Gamecock fan, longtime Gamecock Central subscriber. Just go support those that support us here on the show. Palmetto Golf and Belts, palmettogolfing.com.
Definitely appreciate him, and also appreciate our friends at Game Time. If you are trying to get to a game, there are no tickets available. Hit up our friends at Game Time at gametime.co, or just do probably the easiest thing to do would be download the Game Time app. Industry shaking ticket coverage. Maybe I should have practiced this read before I did it. Industry shaking ticket coverage. They love fans. They are fans too. That's why they are committed to making your experience stress-free. They're proud to offer the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry with Game Time ticket coverage, which includes the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss assurance, and on-time ticket delivery. It is the only ticketing app that gives that advantage back to the fans. You can see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy. Prices include fees, so you know your total cost up front. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 apps. And again, the tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee, the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. I've used Game Time before, like I've told y'all many, many, many times. Going to the World Series, great experience for me. If you need to get into a game, concert, anything else that is ticketed, hit up our friends at Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, create an account, use the code OWN3 for $20 off your first purchase. Again, as we always tell you, terms do apply on that. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Shout out to those guys for being a sponsor here on the show. Not my best performance there, much like
That's right. That's right.
South Carolina.
I was yawning when you came back on.
Because mine was that bad? Is that what you're saying? All right, man. We do have to talk defense, and then we'll talk big picture. I feel like important.
Yeah.
The tackling numbers, according to PFF in this game, were right in line with about what they had been game 1, game 2 in terms of number of missed tackles. However, my eyes showed me and told me something different. Like it just now was that, hey, Vanderbilt's done a better job of getting people in space. So when you do miss a tackle, it is it's a bigger play for them. You know, maybe you're missing a tackle against some of these other teams, and it goes down in the books as a missed tackle. But defender number 2, 3, 4, they're rallying to the ball, and you know it just doesn't show up in terms of big plays. There were several plays where South Carolina, you know, I think had opportunities to get Vandy players on the ground for, you know, short of the sticks a couple of times, and you get off the field. Instead, they break a couple tackles, they move the chains, first down. They're right back, you know, doing what they do in terms of staying ahead of that, you know, getting positive yardage on first downs. South Carolina, at times, Chris, got Vanderbilt in 3rd down and long. At times on those 3rd and longs, they got off the field like you would want. Too many times on 3rd and long, they did not get off the field like you would want. Some of that was lack of pass rush. Some of that was coverage. Some of that was Pavia just running around and escaping for long enough to, you know, to find someone. I didn't think, you know, I thought for the most part on many of those, like the pass rush is getting there. Like you're, and when I say that, I mean, it was in the process of getting there, not that it literally got there. And most of the time, you're not just going to have instant pass rush. Like it does take a little bit of time for those guys to get there. In this case, Pavia is a magician, or he's just getting the ball out. He's getting hit as he throws on a couple of those. Rob Washington says, we need to talk referees. We do. And I think we'll loop that into getting hit on throws here in a moment, because that's another discussion. But overall, Chris, I didn't think the defense was bad in the first half. Way too many runouts allowed, like way too many just creases allowed in the running game in the second half. Like There was a moment where all of a sudden the SEC network crew started talking about how well Vanderbilt had been running the football, and they started popping up, however many yards per carry. They just kind of, I don't know if anybody said dominated the line of scrimmage, but that was what they were hinting at. And I'm like, well, they just had a 44-yard run on this drive. Before that run, they had on that drive alone, they had runs of 44, 11, and there was another double-digit run. That was the first drive of the second half for the South Carolina defense. And that was like pretty much at the time, their run total. So my point being, I thought they defended the run fairly well in the first half. And then it was like it just opened up completely very quickly in the second half.
Yeah, I want to go back to your point about missed tackles. I did the same thing as you, in that after the game, I said, man, feels like there's a lot of missed tackles in this thing. Beamer said the same thing. Too many missed tackles. You go on PFF, again, not perfect, I'm sure, a guide. 10 missed tackles, I think, was the number. I'm going, that doesn't sound right. If you go think about it, I think, Wes, the important thing with the missed tackles is just the context of them, where they happened in space, to your point. A lot of times you can have 2 missed tackles on a play and still it's a 1-yard gain, right? A couple guys miss a running back at the line. He bounces it out. A linebacker gets him. Inconsequential. Yeah, you missed a couple tackles, whatever. Where and when and how are you missing the tackles? And there were too many of those. The play that a lot of people are talking about, Wes, you'll probably remember the specific offensive call, but Carolina's got 3 guys hemming in a Vandy player. You're looking at the play, he's running with the football, and you're going, okay, they're getting off the field here or going to the next play. And then there's a collision. The defenders kind of bounce off each other, and he's out of there, and it's first down, right? Things like that, are substantial.
I think that was a shovel pass.
Shovel pass, exactly. Yes.
And it was more, I'm sure, mind-numbing for the staff on that one, Chris. They played it perfectly.
Perfect.
They did everything you're supposed to do.
Yep.
In terms of
didn't finish
the mental part of playing that play, and then did not get him on the ground.
Well, and I think, Wes, if you looked at this game just generally on the defense and you said, okay, the defense gave up 14 points in the first half, you'd say, I mean, we'll take it, right? I'm not nothing about offense, nothing about special teams. You'd say, we'll take that. But, it was what Vandy had, 4 possessions also in the first half, or maybe 5. Yeah, I think 4. They punted a couple times in between there, but they had 2 long, I think 75-yard touchdown drives. And a lot of them were long, and a lot of them they're converting third downs, making plays. You're missing tackles. You're not getting off the field. And that, I think, is what's frustrating. It's not, hey, Carolina turned the ball over. Vandy's got a short field, or they got a short field because of field position, and they went and scored. No, they got 2 touchdowns on lengthy drives. And then in the second half, especially when Carolina they weren't able to get anything going offensively. Vandy was able to capitalize and do do even more at that point. So certainly not the defense's best performance. It's hard to put this game on the defense overall because the offense's inability to get things going and score more points and to kind of take Vandy out of their game plan really stopped you from being able to play complementary football, I think, throughout the game. So was it the type of performance we saw the first couple weeks from the defense? No, not at all. Was it, man, you just got guys, they just look totally discombobulated? I don't think so. I think you can identify, here's some problems, right, that showed up throughout the game. Are they correctable? Probably so in some instances for this crew. But, Wes, it's very fair to look at it and say, hey, Vandy's got a lot of experience. They've got Pavia. You won't play anybody exactly like him throughout the rest of the season, but you are going to play some really good quarterbacks. You are going to play some really good offensive lines. You are going to play teams that have great backs and great skill guys. So these, again, are things that you've got to make sure that you get corrected, again, starting this weekend.
And, to be fair, Vandy missed a couple throws down the field
They did.
when guys were open.
They did.
I would say this, man. I could feel it in my bones that they were going to throw the ball down the field on that 3rd and 1. Because it just felt like put away time for them. Felt like dagger time. And sure enough, they threw it down the field, and they had the exact look they wanted. And he just overshot the ball a little bit. But you know why they did that? Because they knew they came back on 4th and 1. They went play action again. They rolled him out and got him an easy throw in the flat and, got the first down anyway. So, I mean, they do a phenomenal job on offense, man, of just scheming up all the little eye candy stuff that you have to account for. In addition to, hey, Pavia will run they will run him. Like I said, I watched the play. I watched I watched the Georgia Tech Clemson game on earlier that day. Both those teams, they're running their quarterback. So I think some of it is in today's college football. If you're going to have success on offense and you have a running quarterback, I understand you are walking a line. We talked about it all offseason. How are they going to walk that line in terms of not getting Sellers hit as much? But sometimes you just have to run them. You just do.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a lot of the first 2 games in terms of offensive lack of success. I see people, Bartolo Colon. That is a fantastic.
This is fantastic.
Oh my God. For those who are on the podcast and not seeing the video, his username is Bartolo, then Cologne, like the cologne that you spray on yourself. That is good, man. The username of the day.
Yes.
But says Sellers looks worse this year. And I mean, yeah, he has not been as productive this year. It's just, to me, it has been, but it's just been disjointed. And a lot of that, I don't know, like, at some point, is it on the individual player? Yes. But has he necessarily been, like, teed up to go out there and have success? I mean, that's probably, to me, the biggest, like, all the fire Shula, the play calling stinks, all the stuff you hear out there. That, to me, is the biggest issue. Like, you've got to find a way to put 16 in a position to succeed. Like I said, I actually loved what we saw for the first few drives for the first time really this year. Seemed like there was some rhythm. I liked that I liked the usage for him. But then, obviously we'll never know what that would have looked like moving forward.
Wes, I wonder.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. Here's what I'm wondering. So we know against South Carolina State that USC wasn't going to line up 15 times and say, let's run Lenore Sellers. And maybe you say they shouldn't have to do that. They've got backs, receivers, tight ends. Fair point. But this team is at its best when they're letting 16 be 16. And a big part of that is involving him in the running game, right? If you've got Cam Newton or Tim Tebow or another elite running quarterback, you're not going to say, let's not run him here, right? Like he needs to touch the ball. So game 2, kind of take that out of the equation. And yes, South Carolina should have been way better even given that. Let's kind of wipe that out. Game 1, Virginia Tech, first drive, you run Sellers, you actually score. He scores the first touchdown of the season on a designed run. I kind of felt like your point earlier, let's score enough points here to win, rely on defense and special teams, and let's try to limit what we're doing with Sellers in the run game. And I understand that. We don't know how they would have called the second half of the Vanderbilt game. We have no idea. You may say they wouldn't have run him. We don't know that. We got to be fair. We do not know. Might have come out and run Sellers 15 times in the second half. I don't know. I do think we've got to see more of that, though. I'm with you. I like the usage on the first couple drives. Probably need more of that. That opens things up for you. It is what it is. You've got 16. You've got to use him. So that's one of the things I'm curious about is, do we see more of a shift in philosophy now that they're in SEC play? Once you have Sellers and hopefully have them for a full game, do they go that route?
Yeah, and I think we saw signs of that. It's a small sample size, so who knows what the plan was going to be moving forward. JD says coach is talking about the offense looked good in the first 7 points isn't looking good. Granted, I mean, that's fair, JD, but again, you had 3 possessions. What people are saying when they say that, and coaches look at this thing much differently than the rest of us too. Coaches are looking at the process as well. Like, are you moving the football? A 3-and-out results in 0 points. Driving all the way down the field and then throwing an interception results in 0 points. Those drives, in a fan's mind, maybe you say it's all the same to me. In a coach's mind, those things are not equal. They're going, hey, we had good things going here. We just cannot throw that red zone pick, right? The coaches are going, we had 3 drives with Sellers. 1 was a touchdown. 1 was a good drive that we'd made a bad play at the end. And the third one, we kind of took a step back in terms of shooting ourselves in the foot. But even on that drive, you actually had 2 explosives. I wasn't even giving them credit for the Rasul Faison run on 3rd and 33 because it's 3rd and 33. They almost popped the thing, is the crazy thing. There were plays to be made. There were plays being made in the first 3 drives. Was it perfect? No, nobody's saying it's perfect. I think when coaches, and fans hate to hear that, I get it because you got beat 31-7. But when coaches are saying, hey, we saw some good things there, they're not gaslighting you. They're not lying to you. Like, there were some really good things in the first few drives. But when you lose 16 and then you just cannot convert your 3rd and 4th downs and you're turning the ball over in the second half, there was no shot of you coming back in this game when you're doing those things. So what does it look like moving forward? We'll see. What does it look like for the defense moving forward? I think this was the first time, we kind of all offseason said, hey, there may be some growing pains as the defense settles in. Then they come out, they look far better than anybody gave them credit for. But now they're starting to get into SEC play. Do some of the issues we thought we might see, do some of the questions we thought we might see, do they show up a little bit more because of matchups? You're playing better teams. Like, I don't think this is a defense that's just going to shut teams out, Like, they're going to have to. South Carolina used the phrase earlier, complementary football. If South Carolina's going to win games, it's going to have to be through complementary football. Yes, that means the Beamer ball aspect, but that means your offense and your defense working together and both playing well on a given day to give you a shot. And, we'll see what that looks like, man. I don't want to take too much time on the officiating because I don't really know what there is to add other than what everybody's already thinking. I mean, Am I wrong here? Dude, I timed it from the moment they blew the play dead and said, hey, timeout, injured player, to the ball being snapped. It was 1.5 minutes of real time. You have 1.5 minutes to see what everybody in the entire stadium saw, that, hey, we may have some helmet-to-helmet contact here. And the quarterback, who is 6'3", 240 pounds, is woozy. Maybe we should look at that. Like, just maybe. You got a full 1:30, and then you wait until, a 1.5 into a play.
Into a play.
Yeah, I can see why Beamer was livid. I also, on the other end, I know they're going to try to protect quarterbacks. Clearly, they weren't trying to protect Sellers on this play because you weren't seeking out, hey, maybe this was targeting. But on roughing the passer, Both those, man. What was Stewart's a little bit of a love tap after Pavia threw the ball? I mean, I guess, but he touched the guy. And I really don't know what Brian Thomas Jr. is supposed to do. Like, literally do not
Yeah,
know.
it's
You got
yeah,
a
man.
guy who is jumping as they throw the football. You're bearing down on him at full speed. He did not plant him. He did tackle him, but he did not do that thing you see sometimes where guys make the extra point to, like, you see it called in the NFL a lot, I feel like, to like drive the quarterbacks back directly into the ground. Pavia would probably tell you, hey man, that's two guys playing football.
Yeah.
I don't, but again, do you got anything to add? Like, it's just,
No, I don't know. I don't know what, I don't know what you're supposed to do. And I think again, the inconsistency in officiating is what drives people crazy, because from play to play, one thing will happen here, something worse will happen on another play. It's not called, very early, Wes. And I actually don't like the guy who goes on social media and says that. I don't want to say I don't like the guy. I shouldn't say it that way. I don't like saying so and so is getting held on every play. I don't like that. Not a fan of it. It's probably not true. Does Dylan Stewart get held a lot? Yes, he does. There was a play that said early in the game that was one of the most egregious tackles I've ever seen. I mean, just tackled him from behind, right in front of one of the officials stands right behind the action. He's looking at the quarterback. He's watching the offensive line. Just tackled him. Stewart's getting up. What? And just no call, And some of the calls they made, like they called some holdings during the game. They called some PIs, like they called some things. But I think the inconsistency is what gets people. And then the operationally, what you went back to, blowing a play dead after the play has started. The BT roughing the passer. Yeah, I mean, I could go on about it forever, and I really don't have anything new to add to it. It's just frustrating still.
yes, for sure. Somebody made a point. Well, hey, they ran Sellers in the first quarter in this game. First half. Yeah, I mean, we agree. We're more talking about it did look different Saturday than it had the first two games, when really they did not run him a ton. So, all right, we're almost out of time here, Chris. We don't have time to really explore this the way I want to, but I want to bring it up because we do got a lot of people in the chat. I want you guys to weigh in. Here is my question. Totally get the frustration with the game on Saturday. Totally get it, especially the blowout nature of the game. Why? And this is a genuine question. This is not like a rhetorical thing. This is not me talking, crap about anybody's feelings on everything. Genuine question. Why is Beamer as a head coach taking so much grief right now from the fan base? And what I mean by that is there's a difference from being pissed about the loss and, this happened, that happened, this happened. What, like some of the reaction is like nuclear about the program. Like what, and again, I want people to weigh in. So if you're listening to this or watching it later on in the YouTube comments, put it there. If you're in chat now, put it in here now. And maybe you're not one of those people, but why is Beamer, as like in terms of his ability to get the job done, taking so much grief right now? Like, I feel like after one loss, does he completely lose the benefit of the doubt from a 9-win season last year? You know what I'm saying? Like, I could see if this was happening after the 2023 season, when you were coming off a 5-win campaign, and then this happens, Like I would expect this reaction.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just seeing some of the fringe stuff, but I don't think I am. Like there's a lot of people I saw reaction to the game on Saturday and then going into Sunday. Last year was it college football playoff worthy? Not quite, but it ended up being a pretty special year. So I feel like the reaction has maybe not completely matched the result, is I guess what I'm trying to say. But I'm genuinely asking, like, why is it not like, hey, that game sucked, there's a lot of things we got to fix, as opposed to like, hey, fire that guy?
I think there's a lot of I'll quickly weigh in. I think again there are multiple layers to it. The first and most obvious, Wes, is that people are always going to react strongly to a loss, right? Carolina could have won 37 games in a row in the national championship last year, and had they lost this game to Vandy, there would be a lot. Like, look at what's going on in Clemson right now. Garrett Riley, who, by the way, a ton of people wanted Beamer to hire here, is struggling as an OC. Clemson has a couple of national championships under Dabo. They've been to the playoffs several times. You would honestly think that they've won 7 games a year or worse, based on some of the stuff. So, and that's fine. Like, that is the beauty of fandom. People care a lot. That's awesome. You want people to care. But I think that's the first part of it, is people just strongly react. I think another thing is the expectations for this team were higher. The expectations for this offense were higher. You and I, Wes, have, I think this is fringe, we've been blamed for the team's performance by some people, or just based on what we said. Yeah, I'm surprised that the offense is not better. I thought it would be. Wes, you and I were not tooting the horn of South Carolina being a college football playoff lock type team, or, I think we have pointed out some of the concerns about this team more so than some of the people in the national media who just looked at it and said, Sellers and Stewart are back, almost made the playoff. Yeah, probably top 12, probably playoff. And so fans, when they hear that and they read that so much, the performance does not match that, even if that was not an accurate expectation. You've also got the fact that Beamer's in year 5. People think, hey, the program should be built to this certain point by now. And we did almost make the playoffs. So the next step is now to be better than this in the early part of the season. And I think I'm probably leaving some points out. The offensive coordinator conversation has been ongoing during Shane Beamer's tenure. So Mike Shula has only a 4-game sample size. I kind of call it 3 because in the bowl game, still kind of a mismatch of Dowell offense, Shula offense. If you want to put 4 games, that's fine. I'm calling it more like 3. Small sample size. And it hasn't been good enough. And so that makes people think about Marcus Satterfield, and that makes people think about the parts they didn't like about Dowell Loggins. And they think, hey, there's some really good things in the past, but dang, if we could have just been better in these couple games or better earlier in a couple games in the past. And so I think it's just like dredging up all sorts of different things for Carolina fans.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I'm looking at lots of answers that say some similar things here in the chat. I don't know. I feel like if you win 9 games at South Carolina and are on the verge of the playoff, you have earned yourself a little bit of benefit of the doubt from people. Even with Shula, and again, I am not in any way defending like, hey, it's been good. And no way am I saying that. Ask yourself, how many people saying fire Shula? It's obvious. It's been 3 games. It's been 4 games. Do now what you have to do later. How many of you wanted Clayton White fired? How many of you said Beamer had to make a move right now? What are we doing? This can't be fixed. You need a new defensive coordinator. How many of you at the end of that season, or the middle of that season, when everything was going terribly, was saying, this can't be fixed. Get that guy out of here. Like, just be honest with yourself. And maybe it's a different group of people. I don't know. It's not always just fire that guy. It's just not. Now, will it prove to be, hey, this offense coordinator hire was not good? Yeah, you may be right. You may be right. But are you right just because you said fire everybody, and then you ended up being right? Also, not that Chris, I think the offense, not that I think the offense was great last year by any means, but I've seen people say, hey, we've seen this over and over and over and over. It's been a constant. Where was South Carolina's offense last year and just scoring offense among SEC teams? It was not at the bottom of the pack. It wasn't. Was it at the top? No, it was not at the bottom of the pack. Where was South Carolina's offense just in terms of scoring offense last year in SEC versus SEC games? Does anybody know off the top of their head? Chris, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't.
What would your guess be in terms of
SEC versus SEC?
Just your, and this goes a little bit back, in my opinion, kind of to that thing of, and I don't know that I love this, scoring as much as you need to score in a particular game and knowing when to turn it on, when to turn sellers loose, when not to. Off the top of your head, where would you perceive South Carolina's offense to be in scoring offense against conference opponents?
Well, if you think at the second half of the season, they're scoring some points. 6?
Second.
Woo! Wow.
And they were 0.3 points per game away from being tied for first. In the SEC last year, conference opponents.
Yeah.
So
That's
don't come at me with the offense has been terrible for. Has there been some terrible moments over these, I guess, going on 5 years for offense? Yes, we have sat through some games, right? South Carolina offense last year, SEC versus SEC, scoring offense, 29.1 points a game. Texas A&M, 29.4 points a game. That was better than Ole Miss, better than Alabama, better than Texas, better than Georgia, better than Florida, better than LSU, better than everybody except Texas A&M. So,
and Wes, I think
one data point. It's one data point.
One data point, yeah.
It means everything. But just don't tell me it's been terrible for 2 years now, because it hasn't been.
The other thing I always think about, man, and like, look, this right here will not be a defense of the Marcus Satterfield era. It is not. Let me be absolutely clear about that. But like, you remember how horrifically bad the Florida-South Carolina game that year was. 6 points, which came on a fake special teams play. Horrible. One of the worst offensive performances I've ever seen. That same staff and same offense scores 63 points the next week. Then they go beat Clemson 31-30 the next week. So I think one thing to consider, first of all, if you're saying Shane Beamer needs to shake up the stuff, he needs to fire Mike Shula after 3 games this season, you honestly are wasting your time on that. That's not going to happen. I get if you say it should after 3 games, it's not going to happen. That's not me making an argument one way or another. It's just not going to happen. I think if you're out there saying, I've seen enough and there's no way this offense can get better, back it up and let's see. I think there are plenty of concerns, and we'll get into the Missouri game later and I'll explain myself. There are a lot of concerns that maybe you look at this thing and say, I just don't feel good about it getting better. You can make some arguments on the other side of that. But you can't sit here and say 100% that it will not get better throughout the course of the next 9 games on this schedule. We got to see. What we do know, Wes, 3 games, not good enough. Got to get better.
And we'll see what happens next. We are out of time. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for all the comments. And again, hey, if I don't agree with you, it doesn't mean your opinion doesn't matter. Saw a lot of great thoughts in the chat. And ultimately, hey, I know all of you want to see South Carolina do well and have passion, which we love. And the passion is what drives Gamecock Nation and drives our website on Gamecock Central as well. So shout out to all of you for bringing that energy and bringing that passion. As the week goes on, we'll, of course, turn the attention to South Carolina versus Missouri and what, I don't know, man. It's getting late early in terms of this season. A gut check game for South Carolina as they look to improve to 3-1 as opposed to drop to 2-2. And then, it would get negative around here, I think. So we'll get to that later this week. He is Chris. I am Wes. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor, Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. We'll see y'all soon.